The weekend presidential runoff election. According to the final vote count on Monday, Nawrocki got just over 50% of votes in a very tight race against Liberal Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski, who received just over 49%. The race had Poland on edge since a first round of voting 2 weeks earlier had revealed deep divisions in the country along the eastern flank of NATO and the EU. Most day-to-day power in the Polish political system rests with a prime minister chosen by the Parliament. However, the president's role is not merely ceremonial. The office holds the power to influence foreign policy and veto legislation. The outcome suggests that Poland can be expected to take a more populist and nationalist path under its new president. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
This is AP News. South Korea is set to elect a new president Tuesday to succeed conservative Yoon Suk-yeol, who was ousted over his brief but shocking imposition of martial law. Surveys suggest liberal Lee Jae-myung is heavily favored to win the snap election over conservative candidate Kim Moon-soo. The NBA Finals begin this Thursday. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh reports on what to expect.
The NBA Finals are set. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Indiana Pacers. Indiana clinched its first finals trip since 2000 with a Game 6 win over the New York Knicks on Saturday in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Thunder swept 2 head-to-head meetings between the clubs this season. Oklahoma City beat Minnesota in the West Finals in 5 games to reach its first NBA Finals since 2012. The matchup features a clash of 2 of the game's top young guards, NBA MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Thunder and Tyrese Halliburton of the Pacers. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see mostly sunny skies here for today with a high into the mid-80s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. And then for tonight, partly cloudy with a low near 67. By Tuesday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms here late, increasing cloud cover, high of 87 degrees. Then by Wednesday, chance for showers and storms, a high of 67. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 52.
The following is sponsored by Bid My Listing. Selling your home? With Ready, the best real estate agents will pay you up front for your listing. 2, 5, as much as $10,000 just for the chance to sell your home. So when you're ready to sell, give us a call and give us the basic information about your property. We'll notify all those smart agents who signed up with Ready, and within 48 hours, they'll be competing to sell your home. Pick the best one, get thousands up front. Call Ready, 888-551-READY. That's 888-551-REDY.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
REDY.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good morning, progressives. Monday morning, that is. Welcome to the June 2nd, 2025 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is the Credo mobile phone and text line. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. Email me at richard@WCPT820.com and catch me on Substack. Probably will drop a couple posts this week. Catch all of our shows, obviously, by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There you can get the long and short interviews from at Choose Views. Joan Esposito, of course, live, local, and progressive. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. The weekend's fun around here. Check out our heartlandsignal.com digital platform. And speaking of that, check this out, progressives.
I'm not sure the recreation of today's Democratic Party goes through Washington. I actually think in a midterm election it goes through state houses. And here's what I share with Democratic clubs. I actually resent, and I think it's wrong, when some Democratic leaders say we have to rush to the middle, some fictional moderate point on the left-right spectrum, or we have to find threads of Trumpism that we can embrace. That's wrong. When Schumer and other elected Democrats who try to race to the middle tell their base they're wrong, no. The base is right. Some party has to stand up for the marginalized, has to fight for an economy for all people, a government that works for all people, freedom for all people, dignity for all people. I just think it's a matter of, in 26, meeting voters where they are at. What are they most concerned about? You and I are in Florida. It's an insurance crisis. It's a voucher crisis. It's abandoned public schools. It's a corruption of ethics in Tallahassee. Perhaps it's utility rates. Pick your state, Michigan, California, where we're going to see some midterm races. I think Democrats have the opportunity to show voters, we are on your side. We want to solve your problems. That's very hard in federal races where the issue is all about Donald Trump. In the state houses and other races, it's not about Donald Trump. I think Democrats are right on the issues. It's a matter of meeting voters right where they're at. I can tell you from these town halls, they're ready to do it.
Absolutely. That was David Jolly, one of the clips that we had from last Friday that we didn't get a chance to play. And we'll talk a little bit more about the interview that we had in the segment with him last Friday. Today's guests include Ira Shapiro, former Senate staffer and author, that will be talking about the destruction of the Republican Party at the hands of who? Mitch McConnell. And then political strategist Mike Nellis and I will be chatting it up in the 7:30 hour, talking about a variety of things. And I'll be taking your calls 6:30 from now till 7, I should say. So stay with us. Give us your call. Happy first week of June 2025. How about that, guys? We're here. And, we just keep chugging along, even with all the craziness that's happening out of Washington and other political spaces. This week, we are going to be, pretty busy. Tomorrow, we've got Illinois State Comptroller Susana Mendoza that'll be chatting with us. State Rep Mike Kelly. On Wednesday, our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blues 63. Patrick Hanley, who's running for, I just lost my train of thought, running for office. Cliff Cash, comedian, will be with us on Thursday. Brian LeMec will be with us on Thursday. I've got a surprise guest on Thursday, and I don't want to say this until after tomorrow because something's happening in this person's life that will be could be a game-changing moment. But this is a political person who you'll recognize that we have on Thursday. So I'll mention it tomorrow because there's an announcement that's taking place that I want to wait until after this person's announcement's been made to tell you who it is. So that'll be, you want to tune into that. Then on Friday, we will have our good friend Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics podcast, and Woodstock City Councilwoman Natalie Ziemba will be with us, and they'll be here in studio. So that's going to be a bunch of raucous fun. And then to round out our week, our own Mayor Brandon Johnson from here in the city of Chicago will be with us for Months with the Mayor. Looking forward to it. This Month with the Mayor this Friday, June 6th, in the 7:30 hour. So looking forward to all of our guests this week and making sure that we keep you guys plugged into what's happening. Had a chance yesterday, as Devin knows and others do, to hang out with the folks on the family meeting with Eric Grant, host, and Michelle Peltier, who is co-host and also one of my allies when it comes to Richard Needs a Break. And Michelle has been always wonderful to sit in for me when I've got to catch up with myself. So it was great hanging with those guys yesterday, and always good to, as the phrase goes, go home to your origins of stuff. But man, it's an interesting. The conversations that we have on our air, whether it be here, whether it be on Joan's show or Patty's show, and of course Stephanie and Tom during the day, and then our folks on the weekend, folks in the evening now with Jody Hamilton's show. It's the Politics Bar. Our goal, guys, and this is important to say this, and sometimes we don't say it enough, but I try to do my best in saying it. The goal is to keep us active. The goal is to keep pushing and talking about these issues, because right now, one of the big things that's happening, there's two things that we talk about a lot here, is the distractions that are out there. They just keep throwing craziness out there to get people distracted. And at the same time, for those who are not distracted, it's to try to take away their energy, try to take away their connectedness, try to take away their need to build community and to connect with people. And that's not what we can afford to do. We have to push back at all times on all corners with this. We have to be aware of the distractions, and we have to be aware of the attempt to split us up and to divide us and break us apart. That is critically important right now. And there are lots of what I'll call top-line issues that have subsets. And those subset issues sometimes the Republican messaging machine leaps on those and uses those to try to pull us apart. And right now, one of the big ones is that the Democratic Party doesn't have any leadership, and that the Democratic Party is in disarray. And there are some truth to the fact. Let me put it this way: when you lose, you do have to go back and look and say, okay, what did we do well? What didn't we do well? And how can we narrow the gap? What I don't want us to do is to get so caught up in navel gazing and completely tearing apart everything that we don't lose sight of the strengths that we have. Because that's when, being in disarray could be the case. It would be fair to say that after Joe Biden beat Donald Trump in the 2020 election, that the Republican Party was certainly in disarray, or certainly without that quote unquote leader or leading voices, because they spent all their time, particularly with the Democratic Party having the House of Representatives and the Senate. Those first, that first part of the term. So they didn't have any evolving voices until the House. Until the Republicans took the House back in 2022, to be honest with you. That's really when they kind of evolved. So let's look at this and say, okay, let's not lose sight of the fact. Now, I'm going to press pause for a second on this. Let's not lose sight of the fact that there is going to be, I'm saying this with, all of a sudden my brain went, wait a minute, maybe not. But no, I'm going to be forward thinking in this. Midterms is where I'm going with this. Sorry about that. We are going to have an opportunity on a federal level to take back the House during the midterms. And I'm not going to get into we're going to even have a vote and this, that, and the other. I'm not going to go down that path. We're going to have an opportunity based on what the Democratic Party can do to take back the House in the midterms. And that'll be a large move. And what David Jolly was talking about is a lot of the special elections leading up to that are signs that we are moving in that direction. The Omaha mayor, I know that's not a federal or a national election, but it's a gauge as to where lots of people are. So when I tie back my opening comments about not getting distracted and certainly not getting depressed, it's because we have signs that we are succeeding. Now, I'm not blind or stupid to think that, oh no, nothing, that everything is, we've got a lot of problems. I know that. Very, very wide-eyed and eyes open to that. I'm saying that if we take the thought that we keep pushing toward winning elections before we get to the midterms, and if we keep pushing for a message that's consistent, that does go to people where they are at, as Jolly said, as Mayor-elect Ewing in Omaha said, that's important because the Republican Party is not doing that. The Republican Party is spending their time focused on how awful the Democrats are in part, but they're also spending their time harming people, which is a bigger opportunity for the Democratic Party to craft a message of winning, is to really, really lock into the fact that the Republican Party is hurting people. And if we can hold on to that part of what the Republican Party is doing, what the GOP is doing on a federal level, and in many states, in state conversations, that's going to be one of the biggest tools that we have as we go forward. When we come back, we have a couple of items that we're going to chat about, and a few clips that we're going to dive into. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views. That's the Credo mobile phone and text line, and we'll be right back.
If you've turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-365-6303. 800-365-6303. 800-365-6303. That's 800-365-6303.
WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter.
Hey, guys. Chicago has a long...
You're waking up with Richard Chew.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Oh, technology and live radio. 773-763-9278 is the Credo mobile phone and text line. And that was an example of the quick-handedness of our board engineers, that when something goes silly, they fix it very, very fast. Choose Views News on this June 2nd, 2025. A couple quick items to share with you guys. White House is to double down on steel tariffs. The U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum imports will double to 50%, according to Donald Trump, as he visited U.S. Steel to mark the company's newly appointed partnership, quote, with Japan's Nippon Steel. He said in a social media post that the increase will go into effect June 4th. That's this week, of course. The aim is to further secure the steel, quote, industry and American jobs. At the same time, higher tariffs could raise prices in construction and manufacturing. So, once again, watch what both hands are doing when it comes to Donald Trump, and how the tariffs are going to continue to cause this pain in industries. 4-day weeks help employers too. What does that mean? For employees, the benefits of a 4-day work week are perhaps obvious. Less burnout, improved mental and physical health. For employers, though, there are unexpected upsides too. In a study of more than 200 businesses worldwide that tested the 4-day work week, less than 10% eventually returned to a 5-day cadence. Revenue, absenteeism, and resignations also saw, quote, excellent results, per sociologist Juliet Shore. So the 4-day work week does have its place. I guess companies can see its advantages as well. The ghosting trend is explained. What does that mean? Moreover, this is really, I kind of found this interesting. Quiet quitting and making way for ghost working. So, what does that mean? Fast Company calls the practice of looking busy in the office and strictly performative behaviors like carrying prop notebooks, scheduling fake appointments, or typing random words. Ghost working. Craziness. According to a survey by Resume Now, 58% of employees admit to the practice regularly, perhaps as an outgrowth of anxiety over job security, the rise of artificial intelligence, and recession fears. The workforce is currently under immense pressure to appear productive, one expert said. Ghost working, things like that. When you're on a Zoom call, making it look like you're more active than you are, or when you're on a conference call and your computer is operating and you're not, on camera, that kind of stuff. And last but not least, AI is now conducting job interviews. Your next interview with human resources might not involve a human at all. According to Bloomberg, artificial intelligence can conduct real-time screener calls with a synthetic voice that holds a two-way conversation and provides feedback to hiring managers. I think I would know. The cadence would probably let me know. Proponents highlight the technology's ability to increase efficiency for employers and flexibility for job seekers, though the rollout hasn't been without glitches, like repeated words or misinterpreted responses. Hello? That's what I was saying. We know, I can tell. I think I can tell if it's an AI voice. So there you go. All right, guys, just a couple of updates from Choose Views News this Monday morning, June 2nd, 2025. Yes, folks, we are here. Before we went to the break, I'm reminding us all that we have to be willing to push back. I know we you know, again, part of the responsibility I think that I have and that all of us that are voices in this space has is that we have to be willing to we have to keep reminding ourselves and then hopefully reminding you that, yes, we know it's crazy. We know it's tough. We know there's a lot that's going on right now. And we have to remain focused on changing those things. State, regional, national, and of course, local. So it's about pushing our leaders to do more and to do it more in a more effective way for more people. And that's why I spend time throughout each week at some point talking about, we know the distractions are out there, and we know that the objective of the Republican Party is to try to have this, let's take away the energy and the motivation and the soul of Americans. And if we can do that, then we've won the battle, because that will make it hard for people to fight back. And I'm saying, no, that's not the option. That's not the opportunity. We have the option or the opportunity. The opportunity is to take back what we, in some ways, have yielded because of being comfortable, a little bit of privilege, and a little bit of, I guess you could say, the disinformation, not challenging the dis and misinformation. Her question was, you know, this obsession with Joe Biden. And I mean, that I look at it like that. Maybe what you had to say wasn't that strong in the first place. I don't know. In this crazy time that we're in, it's particularly Meet the Press to talk about Biden, their health care as a drag on the American economy. They want to cut some the elect do that to continue to pull down and tear apart the Democratic Party. They didn't do that when Trump left office. They didn't. We can all go back and look at the tapes. They spent more of their time talking about, was the election stolen, and all of that distraction, focused on the now and the forward, and not get distracted by these things that not only that Trump won, even if it's about him, allows the mainstream media to pick up on that and just constantly replay it to distract people from the harm that's happening from the rest of the GOP. It is part of their game plan. And you can go through Project 2025 and you'll see in there commentary about the distraction or the place of the media and how they want to manipulate the media to essentially use it as a tool for distraction. So I'm saying, again, there's 2 points that I made earlier in the first segment. Do not be distracted and do not be discouraged. That is really all they have, is distraction and to discourage people. The discouragement comes from the things that are happening when we're not paying attention because we got distracted. So, like Reverend Warnock said, and I'll quote it again as best I can from what his words are. What we absolutely know about last year's election is it is over. And I'm going to spend my energy focused on the task in front of us. So, progressive liberal Democrats and independents, let's stay focused on the tasks that are in front of us, tasks plural that are in front of us. And let's take a quick break. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Moment in labor. In 2011, 6 Jimmy John's employees in Minneapolis were fired by their franchise-owning company, Mickey Lynn Enterprises, after fighting for paid sick days. This is a common theme in the union-free world of fast food. Over 13 million Americans work in the fast food industry, making an average of $13,500 a year, not even half the average cost of living. 80% of fast food workers have experienced work-related injuries, and only 13% were covered by their employer. A group of employees referred to as the Jimmy John's Six fought for these rights, creating an online campaign, posting a picture of two sandwiches saying one of these was made by a healthy employee, the other was made by a sick employee. Can you tell the difference? Too bad, as Jimmy John's workers do not get paid sick days. Help workers win sick days. More than 32 million Americans work a job that does not offer paid sick days. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see mostly sunny skies here for today with a high into the mid-80s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. And then for tonight, partly cloudy with a low near 67. By Tuesday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms here late, increasing cloud cover, high of 87 degrees. Then by Wednesday, chance for showers and storms, a high of 67. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 54.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
It's Choose View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, progressives, welcome back. Choose View. 773-763-9278 is our Credo mobile phone and text line. So I'm happy to see Senator Warnock, and I'm happy to see Minority Leader Jeffries going on to the mainstream media talk shows, and in their way, giving them the what for. Senator Warnock said we're going to focus on what's in front of us and keep pushing forward toward things that are going to protect American people. And Minority Leader Jeffries made it clear with Dana Bash that Trump is a terrorist and we're going to treat him as such, making sure that he does not come after. If he comes after us, there's going to be some retribution. And I think that more and more Democratic elected officials have to take that position. When they go on the various talk shows at any given time, if they get asked a dumb A question, they need to say, frankly, that's a dumb A question. It's not relevant. And that's part of what was in the interview with but actually both Senator Warnock and Minority Leader Jeffries. They made it clear that's not a relevant question. And Jeffries particularly said that Trump's we're not going to be terrorized by these actions. And we keep asking for them to speak up and do more. And when they do it, we have to acknowledge it as a way of encouraging them to do more of that. And one of the things that I want you guys to do, as we talked about all last week, with this bill that's, going to disproportionately harm so many members of the country, so many citizens in the country, is to call your senators, call your governors, your lieutenant governors, call your AGs, and call the Capitol switchboard, 202-224-3121. I know last week there were a number of you that reached out to me to say keep reading that number every day. So we will keep reading that number every day. It's important. Make sure you're calling your senators, calling your governors, your lieutenant governors, your AGs, and the Capitol switchboard. And that number is 202-224-3121. All right. Why don't we grab a couple of calls, Devin? Let's go to Andrew in Detroit. Good morning, Andrew, and welcome to Choose Views.
Hey, Richard. I've been listening this morning about getting the message out. That's one of our big problems. It's always been the Democrats' big problem. We don't have a centralized place like Fox News or Joe Rogan where we get the word out. I would have loved to have listened to Pastor Warnock. Where is he? I'm not finding him on mainstream media because I'm completely refusing mainstream media. So where am I going to hear him? Where am I going to hear Jeffries?
And I get your point. By not plugging into mainstream media, it's kind of hard to get some of the things that are messages and voices of our elected officials from mainstream media. So, what I'll ask you to do is this: if you can, Andrew, send me an email, and I'll get the clip to you from both of them. Hopefully, the next day or so. Just send me an email. I'll get it to you. But in a larger scope, I know what you're saying. If I'm not following mainstream media, how do I find out what's going on? What are they saying?
I've got another point about it, though, Richard. I'm wondering if all of the DNC chapters all get together with, the national DNC, and they work on this somehow. They've got to help us find a place where we can listen to this like the idiots listen to Fox News.
Right.
We've got to have a place like that. So if you know any way to
here's the
do something like this.
Here's the thing. There's a couple things that you said, and I don't want you to think I missed your point about where can I find that. I know you mean that in a more broad, general sense. On a day-to-day basis, where am I going to find these regular, strong comments from our elected officials? I know that's what you were saying. So let me make it clear. I didn't miss that. I was being very literal, but at the same time, in the broader sense, that is why I think it's important that we do make sure that we spend time following those leaders, because they post, they do all those things that we know are part of the social media time that we're in. But you're right. Where is and this is a conversation that I can reference Thom Hartmann in this space and other progressive voices that have been saying for a long time. Where are the billionaires that are progressive, that are independent, that are stepping up and saying, you know what? I'm being impacted by the fact that we don't have accurate, proper, relevant, cogent messaging that speaks to what I believe in. And so I've said this, and I know that you are thinking this, and this is kind of what's probably in the back of your mind.
Bloomberg,
all those,
where's money now?
And the list goes on. I mean, there's a number of them, and I honestly believe that there are voices from Cuban to Bloomberg to Steyer to Warren Buffett, for that matter, who certainly sits a little bit center left, or at least would be independent, that knows that this messaging, this is wrong. And I believe, I could go down, in some of the athletic names, the Magic Johnsons and others, in media in general, Oprah, and the list. There's 10 billionaires in America that are progressive-esque, progressive adjacent, center left, independent, that I believe at this point collectively would have more power messaging-wise than Rupert Murdoch does with Fox and with the Wall Street Journal. If they said and came together and said, listen, we can take a percentage of our wealth and create another media outlet and service to the American people, I believe I'm going to sound crazy for some of you. I think it's probably an easy thing to do. Now it's difficult with the FCC being run by the Trump administration. That would be the hurdle. But in terms of money and following, they have more than enough money to put that together. They get more money than combined than Murdoch has. So it's not that difficult to do from a monetary standpoint. I think the hurdle right now is getting them to come together, one, and two, the blocks that would come from the FCC being run by the Trump administration, to be honest with you. So this is something that should have been done 10, 15 years ago, frankly, under the Obama administration, or even under the Biden administration. But I agree with you in that space, Andrew. I know what you're saying, and I've been begging for it for a long time. So thank you for that.
We think a lot alike, Richard. We really do.
And by the way, I want to thank you for some of your comments that you sent to me on email and text. I appreciate your contributions. I really do.
Very good, Richard. Have a great day and a great week.
I will. You too. Thanks, Andrew, for the call.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And Andrew's in Detroit, and he's an old school. And I say this respectfully to anybody that takes us the wrong way. Andrew's an old school progressive that understands that when we work together and push together, that we do make change. And he's been in the fight for a long time. So kudos to him. I've been saying this for a long time, probably more than a decade, pushing 2 decades, but certainly in the last, since President Obama was in his second term, I said that that's one of the things that has to happen, is that there has to be a coalition of other than elected officials that have the monetary muscle to create a messaging entity. And I say messaging entity because are they going to create a new station or a new network? I don't know. But it's certainly, from a money standpoint, they have the dollars to do it. There's no question. I mean, I'll just throw this out because I've done this before so many times in my head and on paper. If we take the 10 most progressive billionaires in America today, and they exist, that are progressive, that are forward-thinking, that know that where we are headed is wrong, and that could potentially impact part of their wealth or their brand in one way or another, potentially. If they took 10% of their wealth, their net wealth, they could build an empire that would squash Fox from a purely size standpoint, because they have the money to do it. They do. I'm not making this up. I'm not sitting in a in a silo on my thinking. It's there. It's just a question of who's going to pull that team together. And I'd love to do it. I'd love to reach out to all of them and say, listen, guys, this is what we can do to change the messaging and the narrative that's out there. I don't know. I get that's a frustration point for me sometimes, to be very honest and transparent, that hasn't happened yet, given their ability of purely from a monetary standpoint. I understand that the regulatory and all that could be an impediment, but I think they should try. So there you go. Let's take an early break, Devin. When we come back, we're going to grab another couple more calls. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Every 40 seconds, a child is reported missing. That's 2,000 children every single day. It's a heart-wrenching reality that we can no longer ignore. Find the Children is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping find missing kids. You can be a part of their mission by donating your unwanted vehicle, running or not. Call 1-800-775-5622. We guarantee that you will receive the maximum tax deduction. We provide fast, free pickup with 24-hour response. Call 1-800-775-5622. Find the Children provides crucial resources to help find missing children and educational materials to teach kids how to recognize and avoid predators. Our recovery programs have a proven track record of reuniting kids with their families. It's time to act. Donate your unwanted or unused car. Help us build a world where every child is safe. Pick up the phone and call 1-800-775-5622. Together, we can bring these kids home safely. This advertisement was paid for by Cars R Us and Find the Children.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. So listen, one of the things that I didn't intentionally miss, it just did in the conversation earlier that I wanted to say. I was talking about Senator Warnock being on Kristen Welker's show and how he pushed back and said, the election's over. Essentially, let's move forward. And I'm encouraging more Democrats who go on any of the shows to have that mindset. But we also can't forget that part of what went down, and this is, as much as I'm going to say it in this moment, the lessons learned are always going to be the lessons learned. It's a question of if people take them and do something with them. The lessons are there. But I was reminded, and I appreciate this, that there was minimal, if any, talk about President Biden's competency. Yeah, everybody was saying he's old and Trump's old. We got that. But competency, there were not these voices that are coming out now that are trying to say that competency was an issue. There weren't those voices, not from the insiders, if you will. The media was trying to create some garbage and a dust storm. And if we forget about the fact that, and this is the part that gets a lot of, I'm going to just say it, and it's probably going to ruffle some feathers. It gets a lot of the strategist class, the analyst class, the advisor class that's coming out now, kind of ruffled when I say this, but Kamala Harris was a phenomenal candidate. She was an absolutely phenomenal candidate. And to skip over that right now is really, really, in my opinion, not just my opinion, my observation, it's really just bad business. Because then it says we get to skip over racism and misogyny and say that because she didn't have enough time and she wasn't known enough and all these other things that are easy to throw out there, and that Joe Biden was too, all of those things get skipped over. I'm sorry, all those things allow us to skip over how much racism and misogyny played in this past race. And it still does today. So for those who think it's gone away, no, it hasn't. And so the ruffled feathers part is some people just can't admit, they can't acknowledge that. They can't acknowledge the racism and sexism in today's politics, in today's business, in every venue that you want to touch on. All right, guys, I got to grab some calls. Let's go to Karen from Chicago, also known as Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics Podcast. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm still waking up a little bit, but, I'm listening to your conversation about, Biden was old and he, the Tapper book. And I just have to believe, knowing what we know about the Biden family and their service to this country and how much they love this country, that if there were serious signs that he was not up for the task, they would have been the ones to say, hey, listen, maybe you need to step down. I don't believe any of it. So much of this is anonymous. Like you said, and, what Reverend Warnock said is spot on. I agree 100%. What is done is done. And now it's just useless, especially in light of what we're up against. And, to the people that were saying that, there should have been a primary, there was a primary, RFK Jr., unless I'm forgetting something, I remember RFK Jr. and Dean Phillips challenging President Biden for the spot. Yep. So there was, and the same people that are, running around saying, what they're saying about Joe Biden and, oh, my God, there was a cover-up or whatever and there were no primaries. Well, Donald Trump did not attend one Republican debate.
No.
Donald Trump was essentially coronated by the Republican voters and the Republican Party. And there's nothing being said about that. How does somebody get away with that?
Well,
if you're going...
Part of that, Karen, and how people like to message in this space, part of that's because Trump ended up, quote, winning the White House. So they don't want to go back and have that conversation because they feel like they don't have to. It's the classic, we're only going to go after the party or the losing team, if you will, for what they didn't do right, but not along the way. You're right. I'm saying you're right. But that's also part of how they create cover for themselves by saying, well,
sure,
absolutely. It's just creating
and
cover.
That's all this book.
Yeah.
That's what this book is. I mean, if Jake Tapper is such a great journalist, and this was really a thing, and people were so concerned, that information would have been in the hands of Jake
If he gave a damn about the country, he would have been willing to bring it forward earlier, but he didn't. He punked out. And there's a number.
Didn't, and now he's trying to play like he didn't know. Well, why didn't you know? And if this was, again, there was no cover-up. This is just them going back and, like you said, giving themselves cover.
I want to know
for
what
the malfeasance and malpractice.
Right. I mean, I want to know what the definition is. And I've said this before, Karen. You've heard me say it on the air and in private. President Biden may not have been the best, quote, campaigner, but that's not. But in terms of being president and running the country, I want to know what the definition is when people say he wasn't fit to be president. I want somebody that nobody's done that. You know what I mean? Nobody sat down and said, here's the definition of what that means. Here's what during his presidency, here's what nobody is saying. And this is why I don't listen too much to the strategists and too much to the senior advisors and too much to these political whatevers post-mortem, because this is the one thing that no one is saying with any credibility. And that is, oh, man, he dropped the ball in this meeting, and this is what that led us to. or
That's right.
he dropped the ball on a particular bill and we weren't able to. You know what I mean? I'm taking a very literal look at this. He did because of.
He had one bad debate. He had a bad debate. He had a terrible night. He wasn't feeling well. We know there were explanations for it, and the reason that he showed up. See, here's the thing. He could have said, "You know what? I am really not up to this. I feel like horrible." He had just come back from an international trip. He was sick, and he knew if he did that, then there would have been hay made about that. He showed up. And we all watched what happened, but nobody is talking about the State of the Union, his performance at the State of the Union.
Oh.
When he went toe to toe, nobody was talking about his handling, talking about foreign policy, in
Hey,
a
Karen,
way
who
that
was
Donald Trump can't even dip his little toe in foreign policy and speak intelligent.
Riddle me this question, Batgirl or Catwoman. Who was it that was one of the moderators at the debate between President Biden and Trump? I'm curious. Do you happen to have any idea who that may have been?
Let's see. It wasn't Captain Caveman. It wasn't Penelope Pitstop. It was Jake Tapper. It was Jake Tapper
No, it
and Dana
wasn't.
Bash.
You're making that up.
It was.
You're making it up.
I'm not making it up.
I need proof.
I
I need
know.
evidence.
Yeah. Right. It is complete malpractice by the media to do what they're doing now and completely ignore how they dropped the ball in talking about the accomplishments of the Biden administration. There were those reports about how not only did our economy recover, and not only was it a soft landing, it was a miracle.
Yep.
And all of the policies that he tried to get through, either legislatively through Congress or with executive orders, which, by the way, kids out there who still are paying off their student loan debt, the reason that you're still paying it off is because the Republicans brought it to the Supreme Court and challenged it and stopped that from happening. So just remember that.
Yep.
But to have something like that happen, but then when they were talking about the economy, the economy is good, but why aren't people feeling it? Why? So they always,
found the person.
They always do this.
Found the person, found the groups that could say what they wanted to be said on CNN and depending on who it was on MSNBC, but most definitely on Fox. It was repeat after repeat after repeat. But we're not feeling it. The administration is failing in the economy, and that doesn't take away. We always feel like we have to do this caveat. That doesn't take away from the fact that we know that there are people that were still struggling and going through some crazy things, but that's the reason why. But now, many of those same people, and we do have to talk about this every now and again, those same people that said the economy under Biden stunk. Now it's a dead corpse on your front yard because you decided that you wanted to have this moron acting person as your president.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the costs are even higher than what they were.
Yeah.
So this moron is running around for the better part of 2 years, let's say, or 4 years even, screaming about how inflation is so high and, the cost of eggs and, that old-fashioned word groceries, everything is so expensive. Our gas is so expensive, completely ignoring that this was a post-pandemic economy. There was still price gouging going on.
Yep.
There was still, we were recovering from supply chain issues. People were still recovering, and that is all the more reason why the media should have been doing their due diligence to report on Donald Trump over the last 4 years and the danger that he poses.
And you
his
don't take
criminality.
away. You don't take away goods and services from people who need them the most at a most critical time, and that's what's happened. Right. And so.
That's right.
But again, mainstream media has dropped the ball there. But I appreciate what Reverend Warnock said and what Jeffrey said in terms of pushing back.
and I'll just say this because I know you have to go, but you were talking about, and I love Andrew, and but yes, we need something, that is going to be absolutely honest and operate with integrity. And yes, there are all these billionaires out there that can pool their money together. And honestly, when they should have done it, I mean, because there are those challenges with the FCC now, but when they should have done it was after Biden took office.
Perfect time.
They should have set up shop then.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
If they had been out there messaging clearly and allowing, and one more thing, listen, Democrats, get out and do your press conferences every single frickin' day. Get a staffer to get their cell phone and live stream it. Yep. It will get shared on social media. If the media doesn't want to do their jobs and cover you, we will.
And they
making
the news. This is the thing I've been saying for the longest time. Make the news, because the mainstream media they'll have to pick it up. They can't. They can't not touch the hot stove.
That's right.
They have to do it. So, Karen, we got to get to this break. Thank you for the call.
Thank you for taking my call and letting me rant this Monday morning.
Got to get it out before you.
Have a great day.
All right. Thanks for the call. Thanks for the contribution. Have a great day.
Love everybody. Okay. Love you.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, spot on. Deb, should we take a call or should we sit tight because we're at the top? All right, let's grab one real quickly from Kendall. Hey, Kendall, welcome to the show. We got a short bit of the time, but you got a minute. Go for it.
How you doing, Richard? So much. Appreciate your voice. Appreciate what you say and what you put out there. But I just wanted to follow up on the conversation you had with Andrew. And I totally agree with regards to having these, progressive or Democratic billionaires pool their money together. I always talk to my friends about this in terms of, we have to get the messaging out. To your point, and instead of just wasting our messaging on insignificant things, we need to fight against the Trump agenda. What he's putting out there. And if these billionaires can put their money together, we can do that. And I want to get your thoughts on even those companies, the Amazon. I hate that I have to continue to support Amazon. I sold all my Tesla stock. So any company that has to do with Trump and how he's hurting our country, I was thinking these billionaires can also put their money together to build their own Amazon. And I just want to get your thoughts on that, because enough of these people. You mentioned some of the sports figures, the billionaire sports figures. I'll take it one more step. In the music industry, your Beyonce, your Jay-Z, the money they pull together. Yeah, we have the power.
I mean, Kendall, listen, man. I'm so sorry that we got to cut this short, but I'm going to say this to you. You're spot on. There's 20 billionaires that are progressive, that have shown up for progressive events. They've been at conventions and all the rest that could put together a behemoth in that space. And the question is, I mean, I just say this, Kendall, you and I need to get together, and we need to go on a calling spree, and an emailing spree, and a letter writing spree to get their attention, because I know in my heart that there is an opportunity there to make a change in this space. Listen, man, we got it. I appreciate your call. I'm sorry it's the top of the hour, but thank you so much for the call and your contribution. And give us a holler back. We could talk about this some more, because you have your thumb on the pulse of this as well, Kendall. So thank you so much for your call today.
I definitely will. And again, I appreciate you, Richard. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Have a great day. And stay safe. Kendall's right on point, guys. He's right on point about this. There is that largesse that's out there. We have to take a quick break. It's the top of the hour. We have a guest in the 7 o'clock hour. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
Research at the Johns Hopkins University Center on Aging and Health found that caregivers who assist chronically ill or disabled family members had an 18% lower death rate than similar people who were non-caregivers. Dr. David Roth says that translates to about 9 months added to the caregiver's lifespan. And what are the possible reasons?
Especially when you're looking at people who are not spouses, but adult children or other family members who do provide care within their families. You know, they tend to be healthier, more socially connected people themselves in general, so there's part of that self-selection benefit. And then also, by providing that care, we think that people get benefits. They feel like they're performing a useful function within their families. They may have more indirect care with medical professionals and be sort of more attuned to monitoring their own and treating their own problems. You know, there's a lot of possible reasons or pathways by which this might be a benefit.
With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or at your local CVS.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Delegations from Russia and Ukraine are in Turkey for their second round of peace talks in just over 2 weeks. Speaking to leaders from Eastern NATO countries, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the Ukrainian delegation in Istanbul is ready to take the necessary steps to end the war.
The starting point should be a ceasefire and humanitarian actions, the release of prisoners, and the return of abducted children.
On Sunday, Ukraine said it had launched a surprise drone attack on 5 Russian air bases, destroying more than 40 Russian planes. A Ukrainian official told the Associated Press the attack took more than a year and a half to execute and was personally supervised by Zelensky. Meanwhile, on Sunday, Russia launched the biggest number of drones on Ukraine since the full-scale invasion in February 2022. Britain is getting a defense boost aimed at sending a message to Moscow and to Trump. AP's Charles de Ledesma has more.
The UK government's responding to a new defence review led by former NATO Secretary-General George Robertson that says that militarily now is the most consequential time since the end of the Cold War. Prime Minister Keir Starmer says Britain faces greater threats than it has for many years.
We are moving to warfighting readiness as the central purpose of our armed forces. When we are being directly threatened by states with advanced military forces, the most effective way to deter them is to be ready.
Starmer says there'll be a state-of-the-art submarine manufacturing programme.
Under our AUKUS alliance with the US and Australia, we will now deliver up to 12 attack submarines protecting Britain's waters.
The defence boost is designed to send a message to Moscow and Washington that the UK has, in Starmer's words, recognised the world has changed. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
This is AP News. 8 people calling for the release of Israeli hostages in Gaza were injured at an outdoor mall in Boulder, Colorado. At a news conference, FBI Special Agent in Charge Mark McCulloch says witnesses say the suspect yelled "Free Palestine" before using a makeshift flamethrower and hurling an incendiary device into a crowd.
As a result of these preliminary facts, it is clear that this is a targeted act of violence, and the FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism.
That's audio from Denver 7. The suspect has been identified as 45-year-old Mohammed Sabri Solomon. Climate campaigner Greta Thunberg and 11 other activists set sail on Sunday afternoon for Gaza. The group says they aim to reach the shores of the Gaza Strip in an effort to bring aid and raise international awareness over the humanitarian crisis. The sailing boat Madeleine is being operated by the activist group Freedom Flotilla and departed from the Sicilian port of Catania in southern Italy. I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News. Have a good morning.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see mostly sunny skies here for today with a high into the mid-80s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. And then for tonight, partly cloudy with a low near 67. By Tuesday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms here late, increasing cloud cover, high of 87 degrees. Then by Wednesday, chance for showers and storms, a high of 67. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 55.
The following is sponsored by Bid My Listing. Selling your home? With Ready, the best real estate agents will pay you up front for your listing. 2, 5, as much as $10,000 just for the chance to sell your home. So when you're ready to sell, give us a call and give us the basic information about your property. We'll notify all those smart agents who signed up with Ready, and within 48 hours, they'll be competing to sell your home. Pick the best one, get thousands up front. Call Ready, 888-551-READY. That's 888-551-REDY.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey, welcome back, progressives, and welcome back to Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is our Credo mobile phone and text line. Thanks for being with us this morning. So, as we say, or I say oftentimes, we were fortunate to have some really smart people that are part of our show, contributors, those of you who are callers into the show and all the rest. And there are folks who also take the time to write books on things that happen that create some of the issues that we have today. And with us this morning is one of those individuals who has been a real voice and in the space of being critical of what's happening in the Senate and what's happened to the Senate and how the Senate has lost a lot of its luster at the hands of a couple of very specific people. And with us this morning is author Ira Shapiro. Good morning, Ira, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning, Richard, and thank you for having me on and letting me reach you and your audience.
Absolutely, Ira. Well, it's good to have you with us, man. I got to tell you, one of the things that happens right now, and I know that you see this a lot, is there's always finger pointing. And I think that sometimes might be the nature of us as human beings in some ways, and I don't mean that in a derogatory or mean sense, but I think there's a part of us that points fingers. And as you probably know, someone in your family, an older person in your family, probably said if you point a finger at somebody, there's 3 pointing back at you. But at some point, you do have to point out realities and facts. You do have to highlight those. And you've done that extraordinarily well with one of your latest writings, The Betrayal, and referencing Mitch McConnell and the destruction of the U.S. Senate and the decline in the fall of the Senate. And I really am excited to hear you talk a little bit this morning about that work and its impact and why it's important for listeners to be have a little bit more in-depth information at the rightful finger pointing that you have done with this book.
Well, Richard, thank you. The book actually came out a couple of years ago and was updated in 2024. Essentially, the argument of the book is that the Senate has been in a long decline, and it's the institution that had failed us the longest and the worst. But that decline got sharply deeper under McConnell's leadership. The parties had moved to a position where they were further apart. That was sort of a given. But it's up to leaders to try to reconcile differences rather than exacerbate them. And McConnell became the ultimate partisan warrior. And as a result, the Senate's decline turned into a downward spiral. And when we most needed a strong Senate to offset President Trump in his first term, what we found was a Senate that had abdicated its responsibilities far too often. And the most dramatic example, of course, but not the only one, was when the Senate failed to convict Trump in the second impeachment trial. Much of our situation now including the return of Trump, which obviously I'm sure we'll talk about, results from the Senate's inability to play the role that it was supposed to play in our system.
And what's interesting about that in terms of what they didn't do, how the decline of and the abdication of their responsibility. I would ask you this question: if we were to talk about McConnell for a second, what would be the thing that tipped you off or gave you an indication, or had you go scratch your head and go, wait a minute, when it comes to McConnell and his leadership? What were the thing or a couple of things that you drew a line and said, hey, wait a minute, this is should be done differently, or he's not doing the job for which he is the Senate Majority Leader for? When did you get that indication or those indications?
Well, I'm afraid I would qualify as a very early critic of McConnell, even before he was Majority Leader. In my view, when he was Minority Leader and Barack Obama was elected president, during a time of the financial crisis and essentially the Great Recession, we were on the verge in 2009 of sinking into perhaps a second Great Depression. And everyone knew the economy had to be stimulated in order to prevent that. And yet McConnell opposed economic stimulus from the beginning. He did everything he could to oppose what Obama was doing. And had McConnell had his way, we actually would have had perhaps a second Great Depression. So that was a tip-off early on. I think the key for most people comes later, when McConnell in 2016, when Justice Antonin Scalia dies, McConnell has a choice to make. I'm Majority Leader. Do I keep the Senate working effectively as it has in my first year? Or do I do everything I can to hold this seat open, and in the hope that the Republicans might win the White House? And McConnell makes his choice with lightning speed. The Garland nomination for the Supreme Court by Obama is never considered. And that was a dramatic break with precedent. And, of course, it had historic consequences in that it led to the Republicans' supermajority on the Supreme Court now.
And it's also, it's going to have, it is having and will have generational impact, because it then affected the way in which the federal judgeships, it affected everything regarding judges I just felt like that was one of those seminal moments that sometimes we don't put enough attention to talking about as it relates to obviously the Supreme Court, but also the court systems in terms of who got appointed to the federal level, and then how court cases were then chosen. To me, to your point, the second big shift that was or signpost of the destruction of Mitch McConnell, to not just to the Supreme Court, but to the Senate and that so-called deliberative body. Ira, just take a moment. I didn't get a chance to do this, and I apologize. Just take a moment and let folks know a little bit about your background, your ascent, what you've done all these years, so that people have a little bit of connection to some of the things that you've done as part of your entire body of work.
Well, I'm afraid that I'm guilty of thinking about the Senate probably more than any reasonable person should, Richard. I got hooked on it early. I'm a Democrat of an older generation, and I came of age during the crisis in our country that started with the Vietnam War and violence and differences over civil rights, and then morphed into sort of Watergate. The failure of Presidents Johnson and Nixon. The Senate was a beacon of hope at that time for those of us who were concerned about the country. it sort of functioned the way the Senate should, and it stood up for the Constitution, and it became a forum for considering the Vietnam War and trying to stop it. I became an intern at the Senate, and I got hooked on it. Came back after law school and spent 12 years there. Then did other things as an international trade lawyer and negotiator during the Clinton administration. Years later, I circled back to write my first Senate book, which was about the last great Senate, when it really functioned. And I thought there was only going to be one book, but what happened after that was when Donald Trump got elected, I used the Senate as my lens on the threat to our democracy. So I wrote a book about the Senate in the Trump first year, and then I wrote the later book focusing on McConnell and the betrayal by the Senate Republicans during Trump years.
Do you think now, Ira, and thank you for that breakdown. I just want to be able to give folks a little bit of the history behind the work that you've done. So right now we've got this bill, this big, bad, ugly bill, not big, beautiful bill, that's going to be debated and looked at and chopped up. But at the end of the day, party line could get the Senate, this current bill from the House done through the Senate because of the party where we are with this situation with the numbers. So I have a two-part question. One of them is, what are your thoughts about how the Senate will perform in this space? That's part one. And then as it relates to changing the Senate, this is kind of an electoral college question. So I'll let you answer the first part in terms of the current bill. Then I'll come back because I know that you've got something to say about this as well. But talk to us about the current bill that the Senate's going to have incredible impact on.
Well, I think that it is likely that the Senate will make some changes in the bill, that the Senate version will be somewhat less extreme than the House version, because I don't think you can get through the Senate a bill that makes potentially dramatic cuts, say, in Medicaid and other important assistance programs like food stamps or SNAP, as it's called. I don't think you can get those through the Senate. So I do think there will be some changes made in the Senate. And ultimately, the question will be what comes back from a House-Senate conference and whether the senators show enough spine to block an extreme version of the legislation coming out. You know, the problem with the Senate, Richard, from my observation, is that a lot of the senators know that some of these policies that Trump and the House Republicans are advancing are completely unacceptable and harmful to their constituents. I think they'll make some express their concerns and make some changes. The question is, will they stand up later in the year when the legislation comes forward? I guess the one thing I would add, and I don't mean to digress, is these senators will ultimately be judged, as we all will be, in whether they stand up to the assault that Donald Trump is carrying on our government and on our democracy and our institutions. So I care a lot about Medicaid funding, and I care a lot about excessive tax cuts for the rich. But ultimately what we're facing now is quite a bit more fundamental than even those.
And what is that in your mind, that more fundamental thing that we're facing?
I think we're facing the attack on our democracy that the founders would have feared 250 years ago. A president, a corrupt, overreaching president, trying to convert our system into something more like some American version of authoritarianism. That's the fundamental thing that's come out of the first 4 months now of the Trump administration, 4 months plus. And I think it's important that all of us focus on the enormity of what's happening at the moment and find ways, as we all can, to try to oppose it.
Are you, I guess I'm going to ask the question in the best vein that I can. Are you optimistic?
Sorry to be a radical.
No, well, listen, man. I share this with you respectfully. Thank God you are, because we have to be radical in our thinking, and really being radical right now is just putting some normalcy back in the way in which we govern. And it's not there, and unfortunately, the numbers are stacked against us. It doesn't change. I said earlier in the show, it doesn't change the fact that we have to remain optimistic and we have to remain those that are fighting. And I've been pushing this the last 2 weeks, last week and a half, about calling all of your senators, calling all of your governors, calling all of your attorneys generals and lieutenant governors to make your voices heard. And I say this to our audience all over the country every day, and I have been for the last week. So optimism, for me, is part of the conversation, is part of my DNA. How optimistic can we be in this space right now, particularly when it comes to the Senate doing the job of being that quote-unquote deliberative body? Is it a situation where we are going to have to ride this out until the midterms, where there's going to be a change in the numbers and change it, and with some of the elections that are going to, where Republicans are going to be up for seats in 2026, or in your observation, is it too late in that? I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
I think you've asked the very important question. Thanks for raising it, and thanks for all you're doing to encourage people, your listeners, to act. And, I'm sure you wrestle with this, Richard. It's sort of a question of optimism and realism at the same time. Mm-hmm. And realism, to me, suggests that we should not be – the midterms are very important, but waiting for the midterms, counting on the midterm elections, to me is – essentially normalizing the situation in a way that it can't be normalized. At the 10-week mark of Trump, I wrote, "Seen enough," and this is on Substack, "Seen enough, impeach and remove." And the reason that I say that is that I don't believe that anything other than removing Trump from office, even before the midterm elections, will prevent what is the assault on our democracy and the transformation of our country. And when I say that, I'm kind of a moderate radicalized by events. If you listen to Stephen Levitsky and Daniel Ziblatt, who wrote How Democracies Die, Levitsky said that this is the fastest that he has seen an authoritarian consolidation in his study of it all around the world. Wow. We're living through something that is not only shockingly different than what we had seen in America, but also happening shockingly fast. So the answer is that people have to oppose it. The optimism that you have pointed out, the optimism stems from the fact, or can stem from the fact, that much of what Donald Trump is doing is overwhelmingly opposed by the American people. If you look at the Washington Post and New York Times comprehensive polls that were taken 2 months ago, and you went down the list, you found that 70% or 65% of the people were opposed to Trump on one thing after another. So the question is acting and making it clear to, and here we'll turn back to the Senate. When I write about impeachment and removal, the answer from people is, always, well, that's not going to happen because of the politics.
Mm-hmm.
And my answer to that is you focus on the scope of the damage. You focus on the irreparable harm that is being done. And when you recognize that only removing Trump can respond to that, then you try to change the politics. And I would be focusing my lobbying efforts and everyone's lobbying efforts on the congressional and Senate Republicans who are actually agonizing over what's happening to the country but haven't had the courage to stop it. They can be persuaded if they hear that there is overwhelming opposition to what's going on. And look, every day, I mean, we read about, you know, the president and his people, for instance, this morning, attacking every judicial decision that's against them, calling for action against judicial tyranny, posting pictures of judges that they don't like the rulings of. That's not something you do in a country with the rule of law or in America. And that's just one of many examples that's happening every day.
You know, Ira, what's interesting about that, and I wrote this down, you said two things. And thank you so much for being with us this morning. I'm sitting here like a student in a law class or in a social studies or a government class, taking notes, listening to the professor break it down for us. So I'm excited about having you back on the show in the weeks to come. But let me ask you or position this back to something you just said. Focus on the damage, because the damage is what's harming our constitutional structures, our administrative structures, and our government structures, but it's also, more importantly, harming people. So when you say focus on the damages, that's a brilliant point. Focus on the damage and then focus on changing the politics. I wrote down focus on changing the numbers, but I think in there is partly what so many people might be missing, and that is if we focus on the damage lots, if we put spotlights on the damage, and then Representative Lauren Underwood here in Illinois said a few weeks back that there are vulnerable Republicans in both chambers, in the House and the Senate. She focused more on the House. But those vulnerable Republicans are the ones that we focus the damage. We talk about the damage to them to help them understand you have the power. And also, it's in your best interest to focus on this, and your people are going to follow. I mean, that might be a stretch, but I'm kind of hearing you're saying a similar narrative. Yeah, am I right or am I wrong there?
No, I think you're right, Richard. I think the interaction between the elected officials and the public is the important thing. So the elected officials, on the one hand, ideally, it would be great to have members of Congress and the Senate who say, look, I understand this is far outside normal politics. I understand we're looking at the destruction of our constitutional system as we know it. That'd be great if they could make that independent judgment and act on it. But it doesn't happen that way. They need to understand that the public is outraged about what is happening, and that if they stand up, they are standing up with the support of people who will vote for them, and the fact that people who will vote against them if they don't act. You know, it's quite remarkable, the gap between what they know, and the Senate Republicans are my sort of small microcosm. It's quite remarkable the gap between what they know in their hearts and minds is happening to the country and their so far unwillingness to stop it.
Yeah.
So they have to respond and use the reasons they're in office. And by the way, why did you want to be a senator if you weren't going to do something when our constitutional order is being threatened? So they have to respond to that, but it helps when they hear from the public and enormous trade associations, the American Bar Association, the American Medical Association, the university professors. You go down the list, we're still a country with a very robust civil society, but it has to be active. People have to get out of their comfort zones and do something.
That's that good radical of you coming out. We've been talking with Ira Shapiro, head of Ira Shapiro Global Strategies, also an advisor with Albright Stonebridge Group in D.C., and just a wonderful, lifelong person committed to democracy and a strong government. Ira, thanks for being with us. Before you go, how can folks find you? How can folks follow you and attach themselves to the work that you've done and you've written?
Oh, thanks, Richard. Best, I think, at this point is to try to follow me on Substack because I am writing on Substack on a regular basis. And if you go to Substack and put in Ira Shapiro, you can find what I've written, which includes two essays about impeach and remove, and I'm going to update them in the next week. But also, a point that I make, I admire the many lawyers who are bringing important cases in the courts and the judges who are rendering sound judgment under the law. I also don't think the courts alone can stop this, and I've written about that as well. So it's really up to the people.
Yeah. Ira, thanks for being with us this morning. I know you've got so much to say. Follow him on Substack, Ira Shapiro. Thanks for your contribution. We'll have you back as soon as we can to talk more in this space. Appreciate you this morning, Ira.
Thank you so much, Richard, and for all you're doing.
Absolutely. Keep the work up, man. We'll talk soon and have a great week, okay?
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye. All right, Devin, let's go to a quick break. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views on the Credo mobile phone and text line. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. In the summer of 1881, 2 decades after the Civil War, 20 African-American laundresses met at a local church in Atlanta to form the Washing Society, a trade organization which looked to create a higher uniform wage and greater work autonomy for laundresses, also known as washerwomen. Through the help of local preachers and door-to-door canvassing, the Washing Society grew from 20 members to 3,000 in only a few weeks. The workers went on strike and faced opposition from their employers as well as the local politicians. The Atlanta City Council proposed a licensing fee for their organizing efforts. Strikers agreed to the fee in exchange for self-regulation. In the end, the City Council rejected the proposed fees and the laundresses prevailed. The impact of the strike led to increased wages for some, but showed that African American workers, including women, were vital to the New South economy. This has been a WCPT moment in labor. We're working for your rights.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see mostly sunny skies here for today with a high into the mid-80s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. And then for tonight, partly cloudy with a low near 67. By Tuesday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms here late, increasing cloud cover, high of 87 degrees. Then by Wednesday, chance for showers and storms, a high of 67. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 57.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Got a quick clip as we bring on our new guest our next guest this morning.
Checks and balances that the president has already put in place. He's fired inspector generals. He's fired the leaders, any leader of the federal government that disagrees with him on any political notion. He is fired, and he's even pursuing lawsuits against those who lawfully acted and challenged him in the past when he was trying to overthrow the government. Now he has taken over the government, and he's been very clear about it. He's been good about it. In 4 months, he's made it into a dictatorship. And the worst thing that I think he's done is this. Obviously, the changes. I used to teach political science and history when I first became a teacher after leaving the U.S. Navy. And what I taught about was the 3 branches of government, the checks and balances and balance of power, to our kids in southern Iowa in the high school where I taught. Those are all gone now. And the worst thing is the Senate and the House of Representatives have been rendered useless. And you folks have let it happen. You've sat back and done nothing. The House is the best example. We're still seeing on the Senate, looks like there's a little gumption to fight back against the new dictator. But this has been like a Nazi blitzkrieg, and you folks have sat and done nothing. Now, I know that you were going to go against Pete Hegseth, who is an incompetent fool running the Department of Defense. But you got scared. So my question is this. Are you afraid of Trump? Are you corrupt like Trump? Or are you just at the point you don't care anymore and that's why you don't do anything?
No. No, first, thank you for your service. I do appreciate that. Obviously, I don't agree because I don't think our country is being destroyed. On the other hand, I see...
So with us this morning is our good friend, political strategist, and dude that's got a lot to say, Mike Nellis. Good morning, Mike, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. And yourself?
I'm doing okay.
So,
better than, I'm guessing that's Joni Ernst there. Right?
Yes, I know you got something to say about Senator Joni Ernst, and I found this clip and I thought about you, and I said I want to definitely lead in and give Mike Nellis a few moments to talk about that debacle that took place in that town hall.
Yeah, well, I'll take a contrary opinion here. I'll give Joni Ernst a little bit of credit because at least she scheduled a town hall and had the guts to show up to one.
That's. I don't think it takes a lot of guts to do the job, but go ahead, you got it. What do you?
No, I mean, look, in this environment, when all of her colleagues are too afraid to show up to a town hall, now she did. Now she's also going to become the poster child for why not to do it because she had a very angry mob who wanted to talk about what's happening in this country right now, and she was not at all prepared to address it. And more importantly, the clip of her, somebody shouted at her, hey, people are going to die because of the Medicaid cuts that you're trying to enact right now. And her response was so callous of, we're all going to die. That's the kind of dumb thing you say to your friend at the bar. It's not what you want your U.S. senator to say. So, I mean, it's a disaster. And I give that guy a lot of credit there talking about, what he is seeing and what he has fought for in this country. And, good for him for showing up. We need more people that are going to show up and hold these clowns accountable because he's right. The U.S. Senate is too afraid or too corrupt to do anything about it. The House of Representatives is useless with Republicans in charge, at least. And so it's a disaster, and they're letting Trump get away with murder right now.
Well, and, Mike, to your point about this, that he was there to speak like he did in an unfiltered way. I applaud him for that. But this is the thing that so many folks are saying, and our previous guest, Ira Shapiro, talked about the fact that, the damage that's being caused has to be part of the message that's being put out, and the force in which that's taken to both members of the House and members of the Senate has to be relentless, because that was a town hall not in Minneapolis, Minnesota, or in a district here, a blue district here in Illinois. That was in red Iowa. And so it proves the point that the people that are being impacted, let me put it in a different way. It's not just people in blue districts that are being impacted. It's people in many cases, and numbers are probably going to bear this out, in most cases that are in red districts that are being impacted by this feckless Congress and House and Senate.
Well, yeah, most of the people who are going to be hurt the most by the Medicaid cuts are going to be people who voted for Donald Trump. And, I feel awful for them, frankly, because they were promised a government that was going to fight for them at a time when maybe Democrats weren't doing enough to talk to them or at least address their concerns. And Donald Trump and the Republicans are going to come right in and they're going to cut their legs out from under them. That isn't right. And if you listen, there's lots of conservatives, or at least MAGA folks, Steve Bannon and Laura Loomer, as much as I hate to talk about Laura Loomer in any context, if I say her name a third time, she might appear in my life like Beetlejuice.
Already there, too late.
But yeah, right. We're already at 2, so we're gonna stop right there. But these folks, they're reminding the Republicans, trying to remind the Republicans that there are a lot of MAGA people on Medicaid, a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump on Medicaid, and they don't care because they don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about you. They don't care about their own supporters. The only thing that Donald Trump cares about is putting money in his pocket and maybe in the pockets of a handful of billionaires that are serving in his cabinet. That's it. Elon Musk left the White House this week, and people were like, oh, no, Elon didn't get the political influence that he wanted, blah, blah, blah. But Elon Musk spent $300 million to elect Donald Trump, and do you think he didn't get a good ROI? Return on his investment? Come on. He's gotten more government contracts because of this. He got exactly what he wanted. Trump is getting exactly what he wants, taking a $400 million bribe from the Qatari government, launching this, bizarre crypto meme coin that he's made billions of dollars. 40% of Donald Trump's entire net worth have come in the last 140 days since he took office. It's just insane. It's insane.
So listen, check this out. You said a moment ago, Mike, that Musk's return on investment of $250 to $300 million to get Trump elected. And as it relates to return on investment, yes. But I think what he really got was he got the heat taken off of him. He got to stay out of jail, or at least be put in front of members of Congress that may, drill down and grill down on him about the things that were being investigated. I think that is as much of a return on investment as the dollars that he got, because he could make that money in other ways and over time. But that's really what the investment has paid off for him, is his ability to continue to operate. And then on top of that, then the monetary return comes into play, which has been crazy. And it's right. Now shifting that to Trump, 40% of his new net worth has come since January 21st.
Yeah, well, and let's talk about this, though, because what was the very first thing that Elon Musk and Doge did? They literally removed the head of the FAA, the organization responsible for keeping planes in the sky and regulating, spacecraft, something that Elon Musk has a lot of energy and attention and money in.
Didn't he just have another one of his? I know the answer to this. I'm being sarcastic. He had another one of his just fall out of the sky. Keep going, Mike. I'm sorry. The first thing he did when he got in. Go ahead.
Honestly, I don't have a problem when the rockets explode. They're supposed to explode. As long as they're learning something, I'm fine with it. But my problem with it is we've got a guy in Elon Musk and Donald Trump and the rest of them who want to lecture us that we don't have money to pay for cancer research for kids. We don't have money to pay for Medicaid and Medicare government programs that people rely on. But we got money to colonize Mars. I mean, Elon Musk was on TV yesterday with a giant sign that said, on his shirt that said, Occupy Mars. And maybe that's the right thing to do for human civilization. I don't know. But don't tell me we don't have money when we're the wealthiest nation in the world, that we can't provide for our people. We got plenty of money to give Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and the rest of these billionaires to colonize space. It's ridiculous. It drives me crazy.
Check this clip out that we've got, Mike.
Can any MAGA person anywhere explain this? Since Trump is virtually demanding that companies invest in America and penalizing those that don't, why is the Trump family now developing properties in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Oman, Vietnam, Albania, Serbia, India, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Turkey, to name a few? And almost all of these developments are in countries where corruption is running rampant. Tell me.
Yeah. Now that goes back to your point. All these investments in other countries by the Trump family, but where are those dollars as it relates to investing in American? Why are they not building in Louisiana, a red state that voted for him, or in Alabama, or in Arkansas? Nothing's happening there, but there's money going to other countries overseas.
There's no money for Donald Trump to be made in Arkansas and Louisiana. There's probably no money for him to be made almost anywhere in the United States now, maybe a handful of places. I'd love it if he'd give up that god ugly. Actually, the building in Chicago that he has is beautiful, but I hate the logo on it. Ruins our skyline, in my opinion. I was just down there yesterday. But look, Donald Trump is the most corrupt president in American history. You've heard me say that like 1,000 times. I feel like I'm a broken record now, but he is. And every single action that he takes is to do one of two things. It's either to make himself money or to distract you from the fact that he is ripping you off. That's it. So everything he's doing, like, look, he went to Saudi Arabia and he went to the Middle East and he was palling around with people who are not very good people, right? They're not our friends. At least friends of the American people. They might be friends of the Trump family, but all because they put money in. And Saudi Arabia was good enough to give him a mobile McDonald's to follow him around the Middle East, by the way, which is beyond parody. It's basically Veep episode stuff. But Donald Trump only cares about himself. That's it. And like, look, I blame the system that and the structures that were in place that left so many people behind that created the conditions to elect someone like Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, like, everybody's got to kind of pull together now and kind of recognize, like, you're not better off than you were 200 days ago, or however long it's been since we elected Donald Trump back in November. You're not better off. There's no more money in your pocket. The stock market is floundering. Everything is continually more expensive. These tariffs are crushing people. And meanwhile, they're gonna remove, millions and millions, probably tens of millions of people from Medicaid if they pass this Republican budget. So it's not a great situation. But good news, Donald Trump is like $6 billion richer. So
yeah, and America,
a rising tide lifts at least one vote.
That one, yeah. But more people, and you, I like you said this, and I'm going to repeat your words, have to come together. I think that we understand there's an after action report, there's an autopsy, all of the words that we can use to describe what happened. We get that. I'm going to take the lesson from Senator Warnock. What we got to do now is focus on the now. And part of the now has to be us saying, all right, we have to stop this fascist. And what Ira Shapiro said a moment ago, and as a previous guest, resonates with a lot of people because they understand that there are opportunities, but we have to start right now. We can't wait. And I want to come to something that you've been focusing on a lot, or at least been talking about a lot. And that is, why so many leaders right now are waffling on the Republican side. And you've had some posts. I mean, the range of Republicans in the House as well in the Senate. But in your observation, Mike, why do you think Republicans are so unwilling or incapable of standing up? Is it because they are afraid of being primaried, or is it part of their nature that this is what they actually want? I mean, I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would guess. I don't know what the actual breakdown is, but I would guess probably 50-50. Like, I think you have a lot of folks, like, if I had to guess, a guy like Congressman Don Bacon, who is the congressman from Omaha, right. And is probably like the most vulnerable member of Congress right now, probably actually wants to get some stuff done to help people. Doesn't mean there aren't a lot of things that I disagree with the man on, but if I had to guess, he would actually like to help improve your life, but he's trapped in a party and a system that is dominated by Donald Trump and a lot of MAGA folks. So he's very afraid of being primaried, very afraid of losing that glow, because the way the Republican Party works is that it's not a meritocracy. It is purely based on sycophancy and loyalty to Donald Trump. That's all that it is. So if you deviate from that path, you're going to get removed from your committees. You're not going to be able to get the political priorities and the legislative priorities done that you want. So I think there's that. I do think there's a secondary piece of it where, like, you have somebody like Lisa Murkowski, who's literally out there talking about being afraid. She's literally talking about being straight up afraid of what will happen if she speaks out. And, like, that's a terrifying thing for a senator who – let's talk about Lisa Murkowski in particular for a second. Lisa Murkowski once got primaried, lost her primary, and then won a general election on a write-in campaign.
I know, right?
Which is insane. So she's basically as bulletproof electorally, I think, as you can be. And that's probably one of the most savvy political moves I've ever seen in my 20 years doing this. But then there's the other half, which is a lot of people that I think either just don't care, or they're grifters, or they support this, right? Like, they are bought into the cult of Donald Trump here. And you've got, your Marjorie Taylor Greenes and your Lauren Boeberts and people that are frankly just not serious human beings that want to get anything done. They just want to make money. They want to get attention for themselves. They want to be on TV. They want to be famous. And there's way too many of those people. And then I want to go back to corruption for a second and just add one more thought that I think is important, which is, if Democrats are going to be able to effectively talk about the Republican Donald Trump corruption that we're seeing right now, we have to do a few things to clean up our own house. Because Donald Trump thrives in an environment where people believe that everybody's corrupt, where they think every politician's out for themselves, every politician's trying to put money in their pocket. And one of the biggest problems that, like, the Democratic Party has is, like, insider trading is legal in Congress right now, and we have been standing in the way of moving that legislation forward. Now, it's not going to get done under a Republican Congress, but if we can start to clean up our house a little bit and make people believe that we care and that we're not going to be taking advantage of them, which I think the Democratic Party is the better party for that, but we're going to have to break through that perception. If we can do that, then we can really make corruption be an albatross for the Republicans in the midterms and in the presidential election.
I think what has to happen there, I mean, cleaning up the house is always important. I think what has to happen there, though, at the same time, if you spend 10% of the time cleaning up and getting the smaller things done, that smaller things corrected the Dems have to correct, but spend 90% of the time focusing the ire on the Republicans and what they're not doing, what they've been caught doing, and what they're causing in terms of harm to the American people. I think that over too much navel gazing right now, and not saying that those things can't be or shouldn't be cleaned up. They should be, and at the same time focusing the ire on the corruption and the bad dealings and the harm that's coming from the Republican Party to that point.
It's a yes and for sure, but one thing I want to say here is that to the average voter, to the median voter who is not paying attention to politics the way that you and I are, who's lucky if they can, they're working 2 jobs, raising a couple kids, lucky if they can drink a beer and watch Monday Night Football. They see the insider trading, and they see, Trump taking a bribe from the Qatari government, if they see it at all, as virtually the same. So, I agree with you. Donald Trump's corruption is orders of magnitude greater than anything that we've seen on the Democratic Party's worst case, or probably in the history of the United States. But the average voter, I think, doesn't see it that way because they're not as tuned and engaged as I'd like them to be, because they're living their lives, not because they're not smart.
Even if, to that point, that's a both sides do it conversation, and both sides don't do it because it's a question of levels. Yes, both sides do it. Literally, there are things that Democrats need to clean up. I'm saying, and I'm standing firm on this, that same middle class, that same voter you just described, they hear that message, but they're going to continue. They can't unhear that message by the Democrats are no longer insider trading. All they're going to hear is a message which is Democrats were insider trading and they were bad, and they took. That's what they're going to hear, because that same person.
Well, to be clear, the insider trading is a both sides issue, but
the problem, though, Mike, this is the thing that we can't talk out of both sides of our mouth about having a simple message and then complicating it with something that a lot of people don't understand. I'm saying I agree with you that it has to be rectified, but if we spend too much time on that rather than an issue that is a pocketbook kitchen table issue, which you and I have both said the Dems have to do, then we're wasting our time on something that's complicated, and people don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about, at the end of the day, the kitchen table issues. We both have said that. And so we have to be willing to do a little bit of that. Yeah, we clean up our house, but if we spend more time showing how dirty the other house is. If we don't do that, Mike, and we spend all of our time trying to make us clean, we will lose more elections because people aren't going to spend time thinking about that. That's been proven. All the data backs that up. That's not just me saying it. We can't clean up.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right about that. But I believe that corruption is a kitchen table issue, and I believe that insider trading is a kitchen table issue. I don't believe that it's complicated. I think people fundamentally understand what insider trading and profiteering off public service looks like, and I think we have to take that seriously. If I had to pick the 3 issues that we're going to be talking about heading into the midterm elections, it's going to be the economy, it's going to be healthcare, and it's going to be corruption. And if we focus on those 3 things, that is a 1-2-3 punch that delivers us the midterms, because the Republicans cannot stand on any of those 3 right now.
Corruption, yes. Mike, corruption, yes. Insider trading is too specific. Corruption is a bigger, because again, I'm using the logic that you've used before, and that is they have to be issues that Democratic voters or folks that would vote for Democrats can very quickly get and no pun intended, chew on and go, yeah, I get that. Corruption, yes. Insider trading, no, because it's too micro of an issue for too many people that need a broader issue. That's why I'm saying that. That's my pushback. I'm not disagreeing with you on corruption. I'm saying getting into insider trading, we'll lose people there. But doesn't mean it shouldn't be cleaned up. It means it should be talked about in a broader sense, and that's the Republicans are corrupt. We need to highlight that, focus on it more. That's what has to happen.
I've seen extremely compelling polling that show that the public does understand this, and the public does view this as a massive issue.
Specifically,
and so that's why I do think Democrats need to talk.
Well, I'm not saying that, Mike. Listen to me. I'm not saying they don't talk about it. I'm saying that the percentage of which is talked about. Corruption, yes. Insider trading, and That's the point I'm making. Insider trading. Yeah, there might be, it may poll very high, but if it's not polling higher than corruption as a broader issue, then that's not the best use of the time. Corruption's going to poll higher.
Well, I think it's just an arrow. It's an arrow in the quiver of the corruption argument. We're probably just talking circles at this point.
Well, that's because both of us want to make sure that we're moving things forward. I believe. I mean, that's always a goal. I got to come back to something that I want to talk to you about, though, and that's the Trump taco as we wrap up. We got a minute to talk about Trump taco, and I want to let you have some fun with that.
I'd like to thank whoever coined the term because they're probably going to be singularly responsible for crashing the economy. I mean, so what is it? Trump for those
Trump always chickens out.
Yeah, right. Which is true. He can't decide whether or not he wants to do the tariffs on any given day, and he's just running around, frankly, like a chicken with his head cut off. So it's really embarrassing. But I'm afraid that it's going to make him double down more than anything. And then the memes have been incredible on X and Blue Sky.
Have you seen the one? Have you seen the one with the last 4 presidents all sitting around eating tacos? Have you seen that one? My wife. That one. I'll try to send it to you. But Zach, what was your Mike? So what was your reaction? When you first heard it, saw it? What hit you?
I wish I'd come up with it. It's very clever. And I don't know if you saw this, but apparently at Mar-a-Lago on the menu they removed the Trump taco from the menu.
No,
which I think
you're
is
lying.
terrible.
You're lying, dude.
At this point I would believe it if it were true, but I approach everything with a healthy dose of skepticism. But I mean, look, it's a symptom of the broader problem, which is that Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing, and he doesn't know what he stands for outside of profiteering for himself. So all these tariffs, they're also an attempt at corruption, right? Like, when they're removing something, he's negotiating deals for himself off the tariff. So that's what's really happening. Like, again, he only does 2 things. It's either take your money and put it in his pocket or do something to distract you from that. That's why, 2-3 weeks ago when he was wildly throwing swings at Taylor Swift and Bruce Springsteen and a bunch of other celebrities, it was all to create, social media gossip to cover up whatever else was going on that day. And frankly, it's not a great sign that I don't remember what was happening that day, because I remember him attacking Bruce Springsteen, but I don't remember
what was going on politically. Right, what was happening politically, which is much more important. And that's one of the things that I said earlier in the show is don't get distracted. Don't follow the bouncing ball. Pay attention, because like you just said, Mike, those are the distractions that get people that then people can't focus on the stuff that are the kitchen table issues for everybody in the country. So Mike Nellis, y'all.
Go ahead.
I'm just wrapping up, but what were you going to say, Mike, real quick?
Oh, I was going to say, but let's focus on the good news here, right? There are a lot of polls that show Democrats with a substantial lead in the generic ballot, in a good position to win these governor's races in this November, in position to take back the House at least next November. So, I think as imperfect as the Democratic Party is, as frustrated as I am with where the party is at, we are breaking through, and people are very angry about what's happening with the Republicans right now.
And that's the fight we keep going. Mike, thanks for being with us today, man. Have a great week. Guys, come to the end of the show. What can I tell you other than thanks for being with us? And as always, take a deep breath. Make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
Well, June is Pride Month, and all of us who believe in freedom and equality are speaking out for LGBTQ plus rights. But did you know there's a way to raise your voice for equality every month? In fact, every day. It's your phone if you use Credo Mobile. Credo Mobile has donated over $15 million to nonprofits working for equal rights, groups like National LGBTQ Task Force, Transgender Law Center, and the ACLU. And they'll continue to do so because they don't abandon their values when the political wind shifts. They stand for LGBTQ plus people during Pride Month and every month. If you're ready to switch, it's so easy to do. Here's how you make a difference. Go to credomobile.com. WCPT listeners can get 25% off your service for 2 years if you use the code WCPT25. Learn more at credomobile.com. That's credomobile.com. The best way to give back is to go to credomobile.com. That's credomobile.com. Don't forget, type in your code WCPT25.
From office supplies to IT essentials, Amazon Business provides tools that help you save costs.